I was born on April 28th, 1930, and I was born at our house in Gunnison, in the bedroom. And my mother was Jean Chapman Taylor, and my dad was Martin Lathrop Taylor. And I was the seventh child in a family of 10. I had my oldest brother was Ray, and then my sister Lily, then brothers Hart, Ken, Frank, and a sister Virginia, just older than me, and then I had 3 younger brothers, Richard and Jack and Murray. The night I was born, my mother was only 7 months along, and she had, because she'd had a lot of children before, she was really having problems with me. And so the doctor examined her and said she just couldn't go any longer because I was due the 1st of July. And anyway, I was born, and the doctor told my dad, hurry fast and get her named, because she's not going to wait until morning. She won't live till morning. And so my dad ran up and got Hiram Hansen, who was our bishop, and brought him down home, and they were in the process of going to name me, and he asked what the name was, and my mom and dad hadn't even thought about it, and they had their scriptures there, and so my dad just popped up with Ruth. And however, as I grew up, my brothers and my little brothers couldn't say Ruth, so they'd call me Pootie. But I was really, I weighed less than 3 pounds. And while they were giving me a name, the bishop told me later that I was breathing funny, and I was turning blue when they started. But he said he just had a feeling, whatever it was with him, I'm not sure what it was, but he told me that he saw that I was going to live, and I was going to have an enormous posterity. And he said that every time I'd go home, as I grew up, as I moved to Salt Lake and went home, he'd ask me how many children I had, and how many grandchildren we've got, and everything. But then he died. But while I was really sick, and he could tell I was going to live, when I was little, I would sit behind the milk separator, and my older brothers would milk the cows and come in the house, and I would sit behind the separator and drink a glass of milk, a great big glass, they told me. And that's the reason I grew so well. Well, there's really a story about that too. My grandfather, my mother's father, was Samuel Welcome Chapman, and his birthday was December 3rd. And so they took me I went to Manti. I was with the last group that were ever baptized for themselves in the Manti Temple. And it was my grandfather's birthday, so he invited all the relatives, and I got to walk up the winding stairs in the temple to the very top, but they didn't let anybody else, just me, because I was pushing it, I guess. But
who baptized you?
George A. Hurst, and then my grandfather confirmed me. And they sang, "We Thank Thee, O God, for a Prophet," at the service. I've still got the program for that day. But one little thing I want to bring up is that my grandpa's birthday is December 3rd, and I was baptized on December 3rd, and years later, Ronnie died on December 3rd. And then I have another grandma that was born on December 3rd, too. Different years, but same day. They had a big old rock schoolhouse, and I went to kindergarten. The schoolhouse was called the Washington School. It is now it was built then on the block, on the spot where the steakhouse is now. And I went there for 5 years. Well, 6, I guess. But it was really fun. There was not very many in my class because of a little town. But my best girlfriend lived next door, and she died just after we graduated from high school, about a month after. And I loved to, they would let us dance in the hall on recesses, and I really liked all my teachers. I have a picture of most of the classes when I went to grade school, and then we went to high school just after we left the 6th grade. So the 6th, 7th, and 8th, we were in the high school building. 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then 9, 10, 11, 12. Anyway, we were there all those years, and I loved high school. I don't know whether it was the social part or the knowledgeable part, but I had some really good teachers, and I had a lot of good friends. There were a bunch of girls that we went together. There were 12 of us, and we almost didn't breathe without each other. And I've got lots of pictures of this. Oh, something that might be interesting. When I was 13, I worked my first job. My dad grew sugar beets, and so I would go and top and thin beets. And oh, it was a job. And then we'd have to load them on the truck. And I got my first paycheck, and it was $13. And I went and bought a camera, a box camera, so I could take pictures. And boy, did I take pictures.
Do you have any of them still?
Yes, oh yes, lots of them. However, when the new cameras came out, that was always the first thing I bought, was a new camera, because I always took pictures. But I liked boys quite well. I didn't miss a high school or a dance. Me and a boy from Gunnison, the richest boy down there now, he and I led the junior prom. The theme for our junior prom was called Blue Moon, and so in the auditorium on the stage we had a moon, half moon here and a half moon here. And the girls came from one side and the boys came from the other. And Arlo and I started it. And then we would go down and make a circle, everybody, and then you danced the junior prom. After I graduated from high school, I worked in Elmer's Market and Christie's Market and the drugstore and a restaurant, and the job I liked the most was I worked at the theater in Gunnison, and Virginia worked there with me, my sister, and I would sell candy and she would sell tickets, and then it got so she'd just come and and sell candy, and I sold the tickets. But then she got married, and my sister Lily got married, and all my older brothers and sisters were getting married, and I went to Salt Lake to work. I got a good job at Heber J. Grant Insurance. I worked there 6 years, something like that. But anyway, I worked on insurance policies, and then the last years I was on the switchboard, and I dearly loved that job. But before I went to Salt Lake, I went to 2 years at Snow College, and I loved Snow College. I had gotten a scholarship to go because Harry Dean, who was head of the music department at Snow, he came to Gunnison and gave me vocal lessons, and he was the head of the music department, so he gave me a scholarship so I'd come to Snow. But that was really fun, and I loved it. I really loved it at Snow. And then after I left Snow was when I went to Salt Lake and got a job. I went out a lot with boys, and how do I get this in? I got kind of discouraged, and I decided that at first my big dream was to go to Salt Lake and meet a beautiful man, and that was a returned missionary, and that we could get married and live happily ever after. And but I was getting older, and I would go out with returned missionaries, and they weren't as wonderful as I thought they were. Some of them were really crummy. And so I decided I wasn't going out with returned missionaries anymore. And I was the gleaner leader in the ward, and we're just about to the spot where I met Ralph.
Oh, okay.
But I was 27.
You were 27.
Uh-huh.